Welcome to the Princess Castle Quest level editor tutorial video. Today I'm going to show you the basics of the level editor, and take you step by step as we create this example level. To get the editor, simply go to the main menu and select the Edit Levels option. From here, you'll be able to see any of the levels that you've created, as well as create new ones. To create a new level, simply click on the plus button here. This will bring you into the editor. The editor has a lot of functionality, so we'll go over some of the basics first. To move the view around, you can use the WASD keys. To zoom in and out, you can scroll in and out on your scroll wheel. You can also middle click and move the view around. A Princess Castle Quest level is made up of 4 layers. You can see we have tiles, walls, entities, and roofs. To change between the different layers, you can hit Tab, or simply click on one of these 4 options here. Tiles are the bottommost layer, and each space has one and only one tile. Walls are similar to tiles in that only one wall can be on each space. However, walls are solid and cannot be walked through. There are also toggle walls and hidden paths, which we'll get into a little later. Entities are the most complicated layers since they hold most of the interactables in the game. Finally, we have roofs to show up over everything else. They help to define lighting and separate spaces in your level, as well as provide a little bit of decoration. By hovering over a space and left-clicking, you can place the current selection. You can also left-click and drag to place multiple walls at once. Depending on which layer you have selected, left-clicking will place different things. If we choose entities, we can place diamonds. We also have multiple options for tools. Currently, we're using the placer tool, which is the default. To change tools, simply press Ctrl-Tab. The most important tools you'll need are the placer, the rectangle tool, and the bucket. I like to use the rectangle tool for most of my editing. The rectangle tool allows you to click and drag to fill an area. Don't forget to save your level either by hitting Ctrl-S, or by clicking the Start menu and hitting Save. You can also hit Escape to open up the Start menu. If we'd like to place something besides diamonds, we can open up the pick menu. You can either hit the space bar or click on the bottom left button for the pick menu. Here we can see all the entities that are available to us. We can also scroll down to see more entities. Tiles, walls, and roofs also have their own tab. You can see all the wall types here. And here's all the tiles. In order for a level to be playable, it will have to have a princess and an exit, which can be found at the beginning of the list here. Once we select the exit here, you'll see that our placement type changes. You can see the current entity being placed here in the bottom right, as well as the entity's layer preview here. We can also right-click to delete previously placed entities, as well as previously placed walls. Remember that you won't be able to delete entities while placing walls. You'll have to change to the entities first. So let's get rid of this old exit, and then we can place our new exit. We can also change back to walls, and make the room a little more interesting. If we want to have more interesting walls, we can go to the pick menu. You can see here we have many different wall types. Each wall has the regular, the hidden, and the toggle variant. We're going to stick with regular walls for now. We're going to use these gem walls down here. You can either click outside or hit space to close the pick menu. In order to give our room some style, we're going to pick a color for our walls. To do this, simply hold the E button. This will open the color wheel, where you can move your mouse to select different colors. We're going to use this red color here. To select it, simply release the E button while your mouse is over the color that you want. Now we can place our new walls. We also will probably want something more interesting than the default floor. From the pick menu, we can select which tile type we want. I'm going to be using this cobblestone tile here. And I'm going to use the black color, and then go ahead and place all of my floors. This looks much more interesting. To playtest our level, we can either hit Escape and click on Playtest, or we can use the hotkey tilde, which is the button next to the number 1. From here, we can play the level like normal. We can also play from a specific position by pressing the Insert or B button while hovering over a space. This will place the princess at her cursor position. Now we'll want our level to be larger than it currently is. In order to increase the size of a level, we can go to any of the 4 sides and left-click to increase the size. Any tiles or walls on the edge of the map here will be duplicated into the new area. We can then carve out some new space here, and place our tiles. And now we have a larger level. You'll notice that you can't see the entire level from the beginning. This is because the chunk size defines the view size. Chunks are a larger grid that we use to design our level. You can see them represented here by the yellow boundaries. Our level currently has 2 chunks. When the player is inside the first chunk, the view will be in that first chunk. When they walk across this boundary, the view will move to the other chunk. We can see that demonstrated here. When standing next to a chunk boundary, the view will move slightly to give the player a little bit of a view into the next chunk. When they walk over the chunk boundary, the view will move over to that next chunk. To change the behavior of the view along the chunk boundaries, we can use the room editor. From the editor, if you hit the escape button or click on the start menu, you can hit edit rooms. Here we're able to left click on any of the chunks to make a new room. If we make a new room here in the first chunk, you can see that it has this icon representing which kind of view it's going to use. The center part of the icon defines the view movement type, and the outline of the icon defines the softness of the border. If we left click in the center of our room, it'll change the view type. There are currently 6 different view modes, 2 different movement types, and 3 different boundary types. The solid boundary like this means a hard edge to the chunk, meaning that if the player stands within 1 tile of the edge of the chunk, the view won't move at all. The default option is this semi-soft boundary, where standing next to the chunk boundary will show you 1 tile into the next room. There's also a soft boundary type, where standing next to the edge here will show you a decent portion of the next chunk. The 2 different view movement types are used when the room is larger than a single chunk. To increase the size of the room, we can hover over the edge and left or right click, similar to how we resize the level. Now our room encompasses both chunks, and if we use this freeform view movement type, the view will try and follow the player to the best of its ability within this area. It'll ignore the center boundary here between the 2 different chunks. You can see that demonstrated here. The other view movement types treats all the chunks in a room as separate chunks and conserves the boundary between them. We can see that demonstrated here. We also can change the chunk size. To do this, simply open up the start menu and select Edit Chunk Size. In this mode, we have 2 different buttons that we can click and drag. If we click and drag this top left button, we can move the origin of all the chunks. If we click and drag the bottom right button, we can change the size of the chunks. All chunks in a level have to be the same size. Also, the size of the chunks defines the size of the view. We can see here now when we play the game that we can actually see more of the level at the same time. If we make the chunk size rather large, it'll make the view feel more zoomed out, as you can see here. If we make it small, it'll feel very zoomed in. I'm going to change my chunks to be around this size. You can hit escape to exit the room or chunk size editors. Let's go ahead and make the level a bit larger to make some rooms and hallways to move through. This looks a little bit better. Now let's go ahead and define some rooms. I'm going to make these 2 separate rooms, and then this one needs to be a combined room so that we can make it a view movement type of free. This will allow the player to walk freely throughout this room without a boundary happening here. I'm going to put some soft edges on both of these. For the vinyl room where the exit will be, we're going to put a hard edge. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and place that exit. And now we've got a more respectable looking level.